I'm resident of Collinwood for YouTube, joined by my buddy Patrick McCray, author of the Dark Shadows Daybook and the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound. We're here to talk the movie In the Heat of the Night, which later became a television series in the 70s and 80s, I believe.
I think it was late 80s.
Yeah, late 80s.
Yeah.
Now in the movie, you have Rod Steiger who plays the captain, and you have what's his name? Sidney Poitier playing Virgil Tibbs. Now, neither of these guys return for the series, obviously, but I love the fact that they use a Ray Charles song In the Heat of the Night for this movie.
Yes.
I've always loved that. It's always been a little cool thing. Now, I watched this backwards because when I was growing up, my grandfather would watch In the Heat of the Night, the series.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, there's a movie. And I'm like, no, there isn't. Shut the front door. He's like, yeah, there's a movie. He goes, ask your mom to rent it for you. I was like, oh, okay. I'm thinking this will go over well because, my grandfather wouldn't just recommend me any movie. She goes, I am not renting In the Heat. I'm like, why not? She goes, you realize it has nudity in it. I'm like, Mom, you showed me John Carpenter's Halloween. It has nudity in it too. She goes,
now I was doing a poster as I wrote this. So is it Rod Steiger nudity? Is it that scene that I heard Rod was talking about being lonely? Is that where the nude scene appears? Because
no.
Okay, well, missed out on that one.
No, it's
Rod Steiger and I share a birthday.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. What's your favorite Rod Steiger movie? You have one?
I sure do.
What's that?
And it's a movie I don't know if you've seen, but man, you need to if you haven't. It's called The Loved One. And it was directed by Tony Richardson the year after he did Tom Jones, and it was about 2 years before In the Heat of the Night. And Rod Steiger plays an incredibly effeminate mortician named Mr. Joyboy, who has it's a comedy. It was written by Terry Southern, who wrote and Christopher Isherwood. Terry Southern wrote Dr. Strangelove, and he basically does for the funeral industry what he did for nuclear war in Dr. Strangelove. It has every amazing actor in Hollywood. It has Jonathan Winters in dual roles. It has Liberace as a coffin salesman.
Oh wow!
It Robert Morley, John Gielgud, Roddy McDowell as a studio executive. It is one of the greatest movies ever made, and it was advertised at the time as a movie with something to offend everyone, and it still is.
That's interesting. So, what did you think of this movie, In the Heat of the Night?
It's a great film. It was a movie I avoided for a long time because social consciousness movies of that era hang in my mind as being heavy-handed and preachy and sort of the kind of thing is like, yeah, okay, we get it. Prejudice is a bad idea. And then you have this thing, and it's this thing I have often with great movies that I've avoided, where I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm thinking, you know what? This movie's a great movie for a reason.
Yeah.
Not just because of its subject matter and, how guilty white liberals could go to it and feel really good about themselves, pat each other on the back, which is the sort of thing in 1967 you would imagine. Yeah. And no, it's a great, interesting story. It's this gripping police procedural kind of thing with all this other mess in the middle of it. And now it's a great portrait in time of just how different the world was back then. And most places, it probably is still like that in some places. But I haven't kept up with Donald Trump lately. But seriously, that guy. But in the era where we see such a rise of, racism once again, I think it's a timely movie because if it's not dealing with facts anymore, the facts of how the world is, it's dealing, I think, with the impulses that still remain with a lot of people. And so, just in terms of its social consciousness role, yeah, it has a definite place. I think if you played this movie for a modern audience, especially if you didn't tell them what kind of the kicker is in the film, they would respond extremely well to it. I think it's a very fresh feeling movie. It moves quickly. It's good late point of attack. It really grabs you, and it has a performance by one of my favorite actors. And as I said, I was doing a poster at the time, so I was only looking up at the screen occasionally. And that's Scott Wilson. Scott Wilson, you might know best as the old doctor in the first few seasons of Walking Dead.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's that guy. He's also in an amazing William Peter Blatty movie called The Ninth Configuration with Stacy Keach. He stars in, which Blatty basically considered The Exorcist and Exorcist 3 to be two parts of a three-part story. The middle part being Ninth Configuration, which doesn't really involve the storyline of The Exorcist, although there is speculatively a character who appears in The Exorcist and Ninth Configuration. But that character is played by Scott Wilson, who plays a mentally tortured, guilty astronaut. And Scott Wilson's also in the movie The Right Stuff. He plays Scott Cross. It was one of my favorite movies, which I would love to talk with you about at some point. He plays Scott Crossfield, who was the other fastest man alive behind Chuck Yeager. And that they have a good-natured rivalry that's sort of hinted at in the movie.
Yeah. I really like how the writers, this story does have racial tension in it and racism because of where it's set in the South, in Mississippi. And I really like what the writers do and the actors do. The writers write a very smart crime story that racism is a part of this story in the way of because of where it's set and how the crime seems to even Virgil admits he got caught up on trying to get Andercott, who he thought did the crime, but he admits he was wrong. Yeah. I like that because even Virgil has a bit of a racist moment in a sense.
He does. Doesn't his boss ask him if he's prejudiced at one point?
There's a phone call you don't hear on his boss's end, but that's what I'm assuming. I'm glad you asked that because I'm assuming that's what got at the very beginning when Virgil shows his badge and to Gillespie, and Gillespie sees the badge. He knows his officer did not search this guy. He goes, "Hey, did you search him?" He goes, "No." He looked at the badge. He goes, "Yeah." He's yelling at his officer, and he goes, "Let me call my captain, and I'll clear this right up." And he does. And the captain tells Gillespie, "Hey, that's my best homicide detective you got there. Why don't you have him help you?" And
Virgil doesn't want no part of it.
No, you're absolutely right. He does. That's the amazing part of it. He wants no part of this investigation at all, even though it's a homicide. And his captain, he gets on the phone with his captain. And Virgil's like, "But sir, I don't think they." Yes, I know I'm a police officer. It's like, yeah. He's reading Virgil the riot act like, "Hey, you're a cop.
Yeah,
help them solve this crime. You're more than capable of it. Don't."
Okay.
And he goes, "No, I'm not prejudiced, sir." So he does.
Yeah.
It's like you don't hear it. You don't hear him ask it, but
you don't have to.
But the way Sidney Poitier handles that phone conversation is beautiful.
Yeah.
I love Rod Steiger's portrayal of Gillespie. It's a lot different than what you got in the series, and it stands out.
Now, how did they justify the story continuing in the series? How does Virgil get stuck there forever?
Virgil moves there.
Did he lose a bet?
No.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, the series, when you watch the movie and then you watch the series, after you watch the movie, it's like, as much as I liked watching the series with my grandfather, because I loved spending time with my grandfather, who was my mom's dad, and because he showed me a bunch of Westerns as well. That's who got me into Westerns. And once I watched the movie, I told my grandpa, like, I actually prefer the movie.
Because you should.
Right. He goes, that's why I wanted you to watch it. He goes, it's different. He goes, sure, Virgil never moved back to, move to where they were at. He goes, why would he?
Now, did you see the sequel?
Mr. Tibbs. I've been meaning
Mr. Tibbs.
Yeah, I've been meaning to, but I've never caught it again. I've been trying every time I go to I tried to record it twice, and my power went out, and when my power goes out, the recording didn't pick up.
You just lose interest. That's it. You see it as a sign.
I'm sort of starting to, but if I see it on TV again, I'll try to record it, obviously.
Okay. It's supposed to be a good movie,
I've heard people say it's a good movie. I want to watch it for sure. Simply because, the fact that Portier reprised the character, hey, why not?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing with actors, like, reprising characters wasn't always the most common thing. I mean, it became common.
Make sequels back then. I mean, unless it's, Sherlock Holmes or James Bond or Gidget, they're not, the three great heroes of British literature. They're not making sequels.
No, they're not. I like the night shots and the day shots, and how really dark the town looks and the countryside looks of Mississippi.
They managed that really well.
Yeah.
I used to drive through Mississippi. I would never stop.
Really?
Straight through. Yeah. One big speed trap is what the legend said. It was just one big speed trap. Before cruise control, that took a lot of discipline. Going up from Louisiana to Alabama. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. I never knew that, man. That's crazy. I love how the day shots look too. I love when they show the where the factory was going to be built, and you see all the mud and stuff.
Yeah.
And then when you see Endercott's place and how nice it looks, it's like they really took advantage of where they set this at. I love how they show a train cutting off the officers.
Great atmosphere.
Yeah, they really did. The atmosphere in the movie was just a lot of fun to see. Whoever picked the location of this movie was really smart.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if they shot it on location. I wonder where they shot the movie.
I don't know. I'll look it up.
Yeah. But, this is one of those things where Poitier certainly earns his reputation as, one of the best actors of his generation. And it's good to see him. I think he was in Black Klansman. I think he shows up in Black Klansman, which was just, if that's accurate, yeah, I think he's there at the end.
It was, according to this, it was filmed in Sparta, Illinois.
Well, yeah, probably a safer place to shoot a movie like that than in Mississippi.
Yeah. Yeah. So
1967? No.
Yeah. But it looked good, though.
Yeah. I mean, it looks great.
They made it look like the South.
Well, rundown and green, exists in Illinois, too. kind of vaguely hometowny, vaguely industrial. Everything's kind of falling to pot. Yeah.
You've been to a lot of places, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so you've been to the north, the south. What's the one place that you've been to in the north that looks like it belongs in the south?
Lots of places.
Really?
Hell, Fort Wayne, Indiana. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not like you have to have the stars and bars, flying out front. There are going to be certain architectural differences,
Yeah.
but we like to pretend that all of America just started to look the same after Starbucks was invented. No, I mean you'll find like weird architectural differences in houses. Like the houses in Iowa have a certain kind of square brickish quality that just looks very distinctly it. When you cross the border from Tennessee to North Carolina, all the houses look prettier. And I don't know why. I don't think it's just psychological. I think it was just different construction standards or techniques or a different aesthetic.
Yeah.
So there are really little things, but unless you're looking for those, and unless you're looking at sort of grand architecture like Charleston or someplace like that, the world gets pretty generic, I think, especially the lower down on the economic rung you go, because they're dealing with a lot of prefab designs and stuff built quickly, a lot of shotgun. I'm sure someone could prove me wrong 8 ways to Sunday, but as far as I'm sitting here, a rundown house, a rundown shotgun house, in a row of them in Rockwood, Tennessee, the meth capital of God knows how much space. No, seriously, it's very bad. It's very, very bad. It's not a place you want to be. Is the same as a rundown neighborhood in Louisville, Kentucky. Is the same. Now once you get to the West Coast, yeah, you're dealing with very different aesthetics and a rundown shithole in Los Angeles does have a different look and feel to it. But it's amazing how generic poverty can be. And that's another horrible mark against it as a plague in our society.
Yeah. With this movie, I like how Rod Steiger's Gillespie, when he talks to the mayor, he goes, even if it means stepping on Andercott's toes, and he goes, even that. I found that really interesting in this movie.
It was. It's a movie full of great statements and great dialogue, and I think really good reversals of expectation, because it would be so easy to make it, South bad, North good, and leave it at that. And it doesn't do that at all.
No, it doesn't. And it's more about, especially Virgil and Gillespie, they're more the characters who have to look at themselves in the mirror by the end of this. And in a lot of ways, with the other characters, it's all about, hey, what's the right decision to do? Like at the end of this movie is really, to me, symbolic, because here's this pregnant woman, and they're going to all jump. The people who were going to jump Virgil earlier are back to try to jump him again, and finally he says, he goes, it's right there, the proof's right there, and finally she reveals, yeah, he knocked me up, and she's pointing to the guy who worked at the thing, and it's like, holy heck. It's like, oh no, this isn't good. Things are gonna go bad now, and they do. But you're looking at these characters like, wow, they deliver street justice in a sense to the one guy. He gets killed, and then you have this moment of realization that the guy who killed Andercott, he's still there. He gets apprehended, and it's like, This whole thing started off as a homicide, but what really centered around it where Virgil sort of he asked the one officer who's played by Warren Oates, who was when he was in jail, he goes, "Where would a person go for an abortion?" And he goes, you know, and he tells him like two places. And I love the line from my favorite line in this movie from Virgil is to Gillespie. Gillespie goes, "Where are you going?" He goes, "Where Whitey ain't allowed." And I'm like, oh, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's a hell of a moment. And it really emphasizes, the flaws in law enforcement there, and that society have sort of created.
Yeah.
And the whole reason why, his bosses want him there.
Yeah. What's your favorite moment in this movie, Patrick?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. I think the scene in the jail cell with Scott Wilson.
Yeah.
I just really like that scene. I like their dialogue. I like the fact that Poitier does a good job of listening.
Yeah.
To someone who's not going to get listened to.
Yeah.
And Wilson just, even as a kid, just delivers a master class. Good Lord, that guy's a good actor.
Is he one of the most underrated, maybe, character actors?
Yeah, yes and no, because his film appearances are not as numerous as they should be. I would certainly say he's one of the most underhired actors. And of course, I haven't researched Scott Wilson's career, so he might have had a lot of stage work and teaching, and maybe he was in a bunch of movies I just didn't even see. But the movies anytime I've seen Scott Wilson in a movie, I have remembered it. And Jewel, let me tell you, if you haven't seen Ninth Configuration, oh man, are you in for, maybe, I know I'm hyperbolic, but I really mean this, one of the best movies you have not yet seen on so many levels.
I might just, I might just roll the dice and buy it on DVD.
Oh, you would not be making a mistake. And it's streaming, I'm sure. I think it's streaming on Amazon Prime and it's streaming on maybe Tubi. My God, is it? You will laugh yourself silly at the beginning.
Yeah.
Incredibly funny dialogue. You will see one of the best bar fights ever in a movie.
Yeah.
Ever. And you will have one of the most mystical, I hate to say this, heartwarming endings of any movie I've ever seen. And as someone, and I mean this seriously, Jewel, as someone who I know you have had brushes with Catholicism, it's a very Catholic movie, but in a great way.
Yeah.
It is pro-Catholic in the thoughtful, mystical way that I think Catholics would want to be seen.
Yeah. I'll say this, like, because again, both my parents were different religions.
Yeah.
And I just think, again, you either learn something from both sides or you don't. I learned one thing, like, not every Catholic and Christian take it seriously. And honestly, thank God I got to meet Father Tony, who was a Catholic priest. He was funny. Like, he would make you laugh. And I remember him coming up to me the one day for church. He goes, "Do you watch the Steelers game?" I'm like, "Shouldn't you continue walking down now?" He goes, No, tell me the score."
That's terrific. Yeah. And and I say my own praises of these things. I say, as an atheist. And so, there was no Father Tony, and I have good things to say about the Catholicism in this film.
Yeah.
It's that's a hell of a movie. I mean, I know you're supposed to talk about In the Heat of the Night, but Ninth Configuration is it changed my life as a film in a lot of ways. I felt like I leveled up as a person after having seen it. And it's a movie I never get tired of. I probably watch it 2 or 3 times a year. I can quote vast passages from it. Its writing style was incredibly influential on the daybook.
Cool.
So yeah, it's good. It's about astronauts and soldiers and madness and an old castle. Yeah.
I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, I'm really eager to hear from you when you do.
I'm trying to think with this movie. Now, Rod Steiger, Sidney Poitier, both very, very talented actors. My biggest complaint is we never seen Sidney Poitier do a lot of this, where he's playing the back talking to the white guy. You know, he was somebody who was very. When you watch some of his movies, he was either a very nice, mild mannered person, or he was, a very nice, mild mannered young man. So, like, this was so different to see him in, because I saw, see, that's it. By the time I started watching movies, Sidney Poitier was doing like action movies with different people.
Sidney Poitier, really?
Yeah, he was there. There was a movie where, who's the actor who played the Kurgan, where he's hunting down that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Tom Berenger, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I forget the name of the movie, but
Okay. Yeah, I'm missing out.
I haven't seen it in years. I haven't seen it, so.
I am not as familiar with his. I'm more familiar with his general reputation than his his actual filmography. I'm looking it up now. He just died last year. Yeah, as I said, I saw him in Black Klansman. I thought I did. Oh God, I'm going to be really ashamed. Who was it in Black Klansman? I don't know. That makes me feel weird that I made that statement. But who is it who's in that movie? Because it's someone who is towards the end of the film. Let's see. Because I'm looking at The Jackal is the movie you're thinking of.
Well,
is that movie? But now I need to see who, because it was one of those elder statesman, actors, and yeah, here we go. I think this is it. So who on earth was it at the end of that movie?
The movie I'm thinking about is Shoot to Kill.
Okay, now who the heck did I think was in this film? Now I'm really kind of, well, if it wasn't Poitier, I'm kind of ashamed of myself. IMDb does these things horribly. Top cast. I don't want the top cast. I want the whole cast. So, okay, full cast. Let's see. Did you ever see Black Klansman?
No, I have not.
Adam Driver movie. You like Adam Driver? Well, okay. Well, it's Harry Belafonte. So is Harry Belafonte. I haven't seen these people in a long time.
Yeah, he is in The Jackal, but he's in a movie called Shoot to Kill, where Tom Berenger, the character Tom Berenger's playing, his wife gets kidnapped, gets taken in the wilderness. They don't know who the guy who plays the Kurgan, Clancy Brown, is the killer. It's a really good movie.
All right, I'll have to check it out. You need to watch Black Klansman. It's now that's an interesting movie to follow this up with, actually. Great movie, riveting, funny, really funny, amazing cast, including Harry Belafonte.
I definitely need to watch that.
Oh, I'm going to hell.
What do you read your phone?
Hey-oh.
Oh,
Hey-oh. Come,
what did
Mr. Taliban. No, that's
what
not
did
it.
what did you think of the score for this movie, Ray Charles?
It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
I mean, it sets the tone immediately. It's pertinent to the time in which it was made, and it's just great music.
Yeah. Ray Charles, amazing musician. I mean, really talented, and I love his music. How they open it with this, it sets the. You're right. It sets the mood of this movie perfectly, and it, the actors pick it up from there. And the way I love how each actor they don't just sell with words, how they sell with their facial features in this movie, how they sell with a look, or just before they say a word, you sort of like, like I love it. It's really smart. Rod Steiger, I feel sometimes steals this movie a bit
Sure.
because
And
he
that's
does,
a hell of a task.
yeah, from Sidney Poitier. Because here's the thing, like I love Rod Steiger. One of my other favorite scenes is when they're in Gillespie's house, and Gillespie asks, "Are you lonely?" And Portier's character Tibbs is like, "No more than you, man." He goes, "Oh, don't." And I love Steiger's character Gillespie's response because it's right on. like you're not wrong to do that. Like I
Yeah.
love that. Their interaction was fun.
Rod Steiger is the rich man's George Kennedy.
Is it? I
Yeah,
believe.
I mean, you think about it, well, who do we want for this movie? Rod Steiger. We can't afford Rod Steiger. Well, there's George Kennedy. He needs work. He's still waiting for those Breath Assure ads to come along. Okay, George Kennedy.
George Kennedy was a good actor.
He
Uh,
was. He was a good actor, but he was no Rod Steiger.
no, he was not.
And I think in the evolution of these things, you go out for Rod Steiger. You can't get Rod Steiger, you get Ernest Borgnine. You can't get Ernest Borgnine, then you get George Kennedy. You can't get George Kennedy, you're at Dana Elcar.
Yeah. You want to know a movie that uh, George Kennedy carries really well?
Any movie George Kennedy is in.
Yeah, but
Okay, what movie?
it's a movie me and Butch reviewed for a Western, Cahill U.S. Marshal. He played,
That's the sequel to Chaps of El Viagra.
he, George Kennedy plays the heel in it, and he makes that movie watchable.
I can't have an egg eating contest without thinking of him. No hand was ever cooler.
Cool.
Kennedy. Cool hand Luke. Egg eating
Good movie. Good movie.
is. Is George in the egg eating contest or does he just oversee it? Imagine if George Kennedy was in an egg eating contest. You have to share a cab with him on the ride home. It's a long cab ride with George. It's winter. It's like bitterly cold winter. You can't roll those windows down at all.
Oh my god.
Sleet is flying in the windows, so you got to keep them rolled up.
Oh my god.
George is just cooking away, making eggs all over again.
So what do you want to do next, man? Do you want to do an episode of Glow? Do you want to do the right stuff? What do you want to do?
Well, I think Glow is a good thing. Here, I got four things to suggest. One, I think you need to see I, Claudius. I think you would love it. I really promise you. I promise you. Promise you. The Right Stuff is a wonderful movie. I think The Right Stuff's a good movie for you, me, and Butch.
Yeah. He's on vacation.
What does that mean? Is he like not doing podcasts or?
Well, he won't be back this weekend. So.
Oh, well, that's fine. We got time. I would say if you can see Ninth Configuration on streaming or something,
Yeah.
that's what I would put first. But I'm also really eager for your take on Glow. At least the first couple of seasons of it. What an amazing, amazing program. It's just so wonderful on so many levels.
I'm actually going to watch some episodes tomorrow. So,
Okay, so you tell me. You're the boss.
let's do Glow tomorrow night because I'll have some episodes in me by the nightfall.
Okay.
Is 10:30 good for you? Is it too late?
It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
I just think to close with In the Heat of the Night. I mean, I'm glad it became a series because that's what got me into it with my grandfather. But I'm glad my grandfather recommended the movie to me.
It's good grandfather.
And I have a funny story about that. When he showed me, what was it? Nevada Smith, the Western Nevada Smith. I was at his house, and we're sitting there. It's like 10 a.m. in the morning, and there's a scene in Nevada Smith where they're taking a knife to this girl's bare back. They're skinning her basically, and they show this. And my grandmother and mother walk in the door as the scene's going on, and my grandmother's like, "Ray, what the hell are you letting that boy watch?" He goes, "I'm letting him watch Nevada Smith. It's not like I'm his mother who let him watch John Carpenter's Halloween."
It's true. It's true.
Oh my god! I gotta love him. But the way he just rolled that off his tongue was funny to me. But yeah, cool stuff. This movie was fun to do with you. I'm really glad you liked it.
Yeah, I'm glad you wanted to do this. This is a great suggestion.
It was, and we'll talk some Glow tomorrow night.
It sounds great.
Patrick, my friend, thank you so much. Link to the Dark Shadows Daybook and Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound. The audios will both be in the description box. Have a good night, sir.
Bye.